Did you just speak to him a little while ago today? How's he doing?
Yeah, I got to visit Marc this morning because I'm currently in Seattle. So I got to visit him for 2 hours, and that was wonderful. We were both very excited because the Money Bomb had already started. I'd been watching it online and sharing it on Facebook and Twitter, and the donations were pouring in then. So it was very exciting for us to talk about that and everything else that we have planned. On October 30th, many of your listeners may have heard about Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert are holding dueling rallies at the mall in Washington, D.C., and Marc has planned, and I'm working with Loretta Nall, to make a big scene at that rally by having free water bottles to be distributed. Now, that's a pretty ambitious project, but we're trying to get 5,000 bottles of water to label with free Marc information and give them free to all the people who make the trek to these massive rallies with Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert, and to also hand out free Marc information and hold up free Marc Emery signs. I've sent Loretta 40 T-shirts that people can get for free if they volunteer. There's a free Marc Emery T-shirt seen by Tommy Chong and many other people on a regular basis. So you can email Loretta Nall, Nall, at gmail.com. Let her know that you can help if you're in the Washington, D.C. area, because we do need people to help out there. And although I can't be there because I'll be either visiting Marc, or if he's transferred, I'll be going directly to California, because Marc has decided that Jeremiah Vandermeer, our Cannabis Culture magazine editor, and myself are going to be in California, in Oakland, for the November 2nd vote. I'm going to be volunteering for the days leading up to it to do phone calls or hold signs, or whatever Richard Lee needs of me. I'm going to be there for him because Proposition 19 absolutely must pass, and I will do everything I can while I'm there to make sure it does.
Now, I think it's absolutely insane that our government keeps Marc Emery in jail when we are dealing with so many states that have, well, like Oregon, you can have 24 ounces in your possession without going to jail. California, you can grow all these plants. New Mexico, the government gives it out to their state residents. And, Jodi, I can go on. And here sits Marc Emery. And, as I said early in the program, it makes our government look absolutely silly and desperate.
Well, absolutely, and even the fact that, the federal government of the United States is still saying that they will fight against Prop 19 if it passes. Well, states have states' rights, and when voters in a state vote for something during an election, it becomes part of their constitution, and the federal government has to back off. So I hope Obama doesn't go ahead and try and challenge this in court, because you've got something special in America, that you have states' rights. And if people vote for this, that shouldn't be interfered with at all on the federal level. But, the federal government of the United States does a lot of really, really bad, evil things. I mean, I'm sure everybody there is familiar with it, with the wars and the drug war and the prison industry and everything that goes on. It's really quite shameful. So, there's a lot of work to be done. Even if we get marijuana legalized in California, we've got to legalize and end prohibition on a federal level.
And I want to remind people who are at home listening right now, they can pick up the phone and call 604-669-9069. And with your Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal, you can make a donation to help get Marc Emery home and to maybe even get Marc Emery free. I would encourage the millions of people who are out there listening to actually vote with your dollars now. You can pull your money together and make a huge money bomb. Go to CannabisCulture.com. Check out the live streaming video that's going on there, which reminds me, Jodi, Marc Emery is one of the people who actually got videos going on the internet and free TV. He and I were working, but he jumped the gun before I had it. By 6 months, I think he beat me, and he was responsible for helping to get media content from all around the world into the brains and eyes and ears of people who needed it through Pot TV. Isn't that right?
Yep, Pot TV was another great project that Marc did. It cost quite a lot of money, but it was very incredible for its time. Before YouTube, if anyone can remember the time before YouTube, there was no video streaming online. And in 2000, Marc decided that he was going to use this brand new technology on the Internet to broadcast live video called Pot TV. And it's where anybody can, watch these live streaming videos of Marc Emery and David Malmo-Levine, Chris Bennett, Dana Larson, all the characters of Marc Emery's Cannabis Culture headquarters and the BC Marijuana Party and the activist movement were there doing regular shows. In fact, Steve Cubby and many others had regular shows too, including Loretta Nall. So he spent a lot of money on that station, and they were very popular. In fact, when they started, they were in the news for being one of the only video websites online. And if you go to www.pot.tv, you can see the website. Now, it's not quite the same as it used to be, you know, as technology has moved along. YouTube and Flash videos and all that have really taken over. But during that time, it was live streaming, and that was really expensive. A lot of people in the year 2000 didn't have fast internet, so there weren't that many viewers to begin with. But it slowly grew and grew and grew, and they documented all the history of cannabis and all the news that went on. They had people watching all the news channels and recording everything and uploading it. So they did original shows and incredible, extensive archive, unlike any other that exists on Earth. In fact, we have quite a few devoted fans who have made it their life mission to ensure that all the information from Pot TV doesn't ever disappear. Now, if you have an older version of Real Player, I believe you can watch some of the old videos. But again, technology changes so fast, and it's been so long since Pot TV was started that a lot of the videos are probably not available anymore, which is a shame. But there are thousands and thousands of videos out there on Pot TV that Marc helped fund and create, which were pivotal in the marijuana movement growing to the size it has today.
You are listening to a live broadcast of American Freedom Radio's Time for Hemp Live. Is this 2 hours of uninterrupted commercial-free broadcasting donated to the Marc Emery and Jodi Emery Money Bomb as a gift of love from the people at American Freedom Radio. I am your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to Jodi Emery, and we have lots of friends on the phone, and we are asking you to go to 604-669-9069 and donate. Go to Cannabis Culture, hit the donate button there, and let Marc Emery know and Jodi Emery know how much you appreciate their hard work. Now, Jodi, you're carrying on CannabisCulture.com as a Lone Ranger. You're lucky to have some advice from Marc, I know, but first of all, is he still in solitary?
Marc was in solitary confinement for 3 weeks. That was a couple months ago. He was put there for me recording a phone call to broadcast as a prison podcast. The prison does not have any rules against that, but the times that they've punished Marc have all been kind of made up or arbitrary rules. So he was there for 3 weeks, and they finally let him out when his lawyer threatened to try and get him released on bail. So they said, no, don't do that, we'll just let him out as a whole, and they did. So Marc has been in general population since. He believes that he is going to be moved to California in the next 2 weeks. There's transfers out of the prison on a regular basis, and he thinks that since he's been sentenced on September 10th, when he was sentenced to 5 years, he is ready to be moved out of this federal detention center and into a federal correctional institution. And they've designated him for Taft Federal Correctional Institution in the California desert, 2 hours north of L.A., and I'll be going down there to visit him when he does move down there. And I encourage people to write Marc letters as well. If you go to CannabisCulture.com, you will be able to see right at the top, there's a big banner that says send mail to Marc Emery. And go to freemarc.ca so you can write letters to him there. There's a link. But, you know, a lot of people are tuning in. Right now we have 182 viewers live on the Money Bomb. If you go to CannabisCulture.com, you can see a live video stream of our friends hanging out and filling up the last 2 hours of this Money Bomb. And in fact, we had a very generous donor say that they would double the donations made in the last 3 hours. So if you go to CannabisCulture.com right now and you make a donation of $20, then it'll actually be $40. And if you donate 5 or 50, then, you know, it's 100. So I encourage people to go there and help contribute. And if you can't, please share the link on Twitter or on Facebook so people that you know who may have been inspired by or touched by or helped by Marc will contribute. And if you can't do that, then I ask that you please at least write an email, a letter, or make a phone call to the Justice Department of the United States to ask them to approve Marc's transfer when he makes his application. So that information is also found at freemarc.ca.
Okay. Now, I know I've got a couple more questions here, but I thought I might give Carey Burns, who has Cannabis Corner, and Shane Eden both an opportunity to ask you a question, Jodi, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Hi, Jodi. This is Carey.
Hi, Carey.
I was wondering when Marc sold the seeds in Canada like that, are y'all do y'all follow like any incorporations or anything like that under your business? Is it a corporation or was it done as an individual person?
Well, Marc ran a seed business called Marc Emery Direct Marijuana Seeds. Mm-hmm. So I'm not familiar because I was only around for a year and a half before the arrest happened and the raid happened and the seed selling stopped. But Marc has a parent company that's called Avalon Sunsplash, and Avalon Sunsplash did business as Cannabis Culture Magazine and Pot TV, and I believe also Emery Seeds, although, in fact, the finances and all were not kept with that same company, so I believe it was not related directly to Cannabis Culture or Pot TV. It was just Marc's personal business that he ran, and he paid income tax on.
Right.
So, over those years, he called himself a marijuana seed vendor. He was well known in the press for selling marijuana seeds. And Revenue Canada, which is kind of like the IRS, they would meet with Marc regularly, and he would give them his bank account info and show them all the numbers and all the transfers. I mean, nobody's personal information was ever compromised. He always made it very clear that he does not keep personal records, and that's why nobody was ever arrested from Marc's records of seed sales. But he promised to let Revenue Canada see all the money that he made, and they did. So he paid taxes as a marijuana seed seller. So over those years, he paid $580,000 in taxes on those marijuana seeds, and Revenue Canada would regularly meet with him and say, how's business going? Are you able to sell more seeds? Can you make more money? And, they really egged him on, and, they didn't see anything wrong with it. Most of Canada didn't. So that's why it was so absurd when the U.S. reached up into Canada, because Marc never went to the United States as a seed seller. So, when they reached up here and took him for something that he was paying taxes on and well known for doing, that was quite a shock to all Canadians.
It's insane. It's actually just insane.
Yeah, I mean, the DEA has offices in countries around the world.
Oh, yeah.
It's very scary.
They operate very illegally.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Shane, your turn.
Well, hello, Jodi. It's so great to be able to talk to you and listen to everybody on this fantastic show. God bless Marc. And I just want to say that please take part of my donation money and get Marc a nice cold Molson's or a Labatt's once he gets over there. But I have a serious question. When he's back in Canada, when will he be able to be released and get out of this so he can live free? And what can all of us do to hasten that?
Well, in Canada, we have release for prisoners at 2/3 of their sentence. So in the United States, prisoners have to serve 85% of their sentence before they can apply for early release. So in Canada, it's 2/3. Now, with all the time that Marc has done so far, he thinks that if he gets his transfer application in this fall, and if it gets approved in early spring or late winter, and if the transfer process begins around then, he could be in Canada and be with me by late summer. It takes a few months to do the transferring and all, but it could be late summer, and then he could be out on parole during the day and home with me by November. So we would be able to eventually have Christmas together next year if we get him home as soon as possible. So that is the soonest that Marc could be home. But if he ends up serving all his time in the United States, if he doesn't get a transfer, he will have 3 years and 9 months